Why do some men die poor despite their honesty, while others build empires on cunning and deception? Today, we shall strip away the illusions of morality, expose the hidden levers of money, and reveal how manipulation has always been the secret hand behind wealth. We must begin by tearing down the comforting lie that men have been fed for centuries. That wealth is the child of virtue, that riches are granted to those who labor honestly, that prosperity rewards the righteous. Look around you. Have you not seen countless men of honesty die poor, while cunning opportunists rise to palaces of gold? The truth, though bitter, is simple. Wealth is not built on morality. It never has been, and it never will be. The belief that virtue leads to fortune is a deception, one carefully woven to keep the majority obedient. The merchant tells his apprentice, work hard, be honest, serve with loyalty, and one day you too shall prosper. But the master knows the reality. Only those willing to bend the rules, to break the chain of morality when it suits their ambition, ascend beyond mediocrity. The apprentice clings to honesty, and in doing so, remains a servant forever. Consider the fox, often hailed as sly. Is the fox caught because he is sly? No, the fox survives because he refuses to be bound by the rules of the henhouse. So too must man abandon the illusion that honesty alone will grant him wealth. To serve virtue purely is to place oneself beneath those who exploit it. The honest man becomes the mule, carrying the load of the clever, who in turn sit comfortably atop fortunes. When you trace the foundations of great empires, of dynasties that stood for centuries, do you find morality at their roots? Or do you find conquest, deception, and relentless ambition dressed in the garments of righteousness? Rome did not conquer through sermons of kindness. It conquered with the sword and justified it with talk of civilization. Kings did not secure their thrones through humility. They seized them through force, manipulation, and strategy, then cloaked their reigns with the language of divine right. The appearance of morality gave stability, but the absence of morality built the power itself. You must understand this distinction clearly. Morality is useful as a mask, not as a foundation. To cling to it as a foundation is to build a palace upon sand. Wealth, like power, requires roots in cunning, in strategy, in the willingness to do what others cannot stomach. The rich are not rich because they are good. They are rich because they understand that goodness is only a performance, a costume worn when the crowd is watching. Think of the merchant who cheats in silence but donates in public. The masses call him generous, noble, a man of integrity. Yet his fortune grew not from generosity but from calculated deception. He knows morality is not the seed of wealth, it is the shield that protects it. Meanwhile, the merchant who insists on fairness in every deal, who clings to virtue in all his affairs, finds himself undercut, outplayed, and eventually forgotten. Here lies the bitter irony. The man who worships morality becomes the servant of the wealthy, while the man who manipulates morality becomes the wealthy. It is the same with kingdoms as with coin. Leaders who rule with pure honesty are devoured by wolves. Leaders who pretend to be honest while practicing cunning are celebrated as wise rulers. Now, some may say this is corruption, that it is wickedness to build wealth without morality. But such voices betray their own weakness. Morality itself is not fixed. It is a weapon wielded by those in power. The rich man's vice is often painted as boldness, while the poor man's vice is condemned as sin. The world does not measure morality by actions. It measures by appearances and outcomes. Thus, the pursuit of pure morality in wealth is not only foolish, it is fatal to ambition. Reflect also on this. Men are not equal in appetite. Some desire stability, some desire survival, but a few hunger for greatness. Those who hunger for greatness do not wait for fortune to bless them. They seize it. They understand that morality will not feed their hunger. They must instead bend morality, twist it, wield it like a tool. For morality is not the path. It is merely the disguise that conceals the true path. Do you see the trap? Those who insist that wealth comes from virtue are the same who benefit from your obedience. They keep you bound in chains of morality, so you never dare to question why they are rich while you remain poor. They will tell you to work harder, to be more honest, to serve faithfully, all the while laughing behind gilded doors, knowing that the true game is not honesty but manipulation. The man who understands this becomes dangerous, for he begins to see morality not as a master, but as a servant. He will play the part of the virtuous man when it benefits him, but in the shadows, he will use cunning, ambition, and strategy to secure what others only dream of. Wealth comes not to the good, but to the bold who dare to bend the rules while convincing others that they remain unbroken. Let us now uncover another truth that most men dare not speak. Money does not follow morality. Money creates morality. This is the hidden law that governs society, a law as old as civilization itself. You see, the same act, when done by a poor man, is judged wicked, yet when done by a rich man, it is celebrated as daring. Poverty condemns the soul, while wealth redeems it. It is not virtue that absolves sin, but gold. Consider the thief who steals bread to feed his starving family. He is hunted, scorned, thrown into chains, his name cursed. Now consider the wealthy merchant who robs thousands with hidden fees, unjust contracts, and ruthless practices. Do men call him a thief? No, they call him successful, ingenious, a man of enterprise. The merchant buys morality with his fortune. The poor man cannot afford such luxury. This is the first great deception of the world. Morality is not universal. It bends according to wealth. And if you understand this, you understand the key to how empires endure and dynasties are born. For morality is never about truth. It is about perception. And money shapes perception as a sculptor shapes clay. Look to history, and you will see this pattern repeat endlessly. A poor man who wages war is called a murderer. A king who wages war is hailed as a conqueror. The same act, yet money and power wash it clean. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, defied the Roman Republic, and drowned the fields in blood. Was he condemned as a criminal? No, he was crowned as a savior. His ambition painted as destiny. Wealth, glory, and power erased the stain of his rebellion and turned his audacity into virtue. The lesson here is brutal, yet undeniable. With money, even the foulest deeds can be dressed in robes of morality. Without money, even the noblest act can be painted as treachery. The world is not governed by justice. It is governed by perception, and perception is bought, not earned. Do you see how the rich command society? They do not merely possess wealth, they possess the ability to define what is moral. A wealthy ruler may commit betrayal, cruelty, or deception. But if his coffers overflow, he buys poets to sing his praises, priests to bless his reign, and chroniclers to write his deeds as glorious. Money silences critics, rewards allies, and rewrites truth. The wealthy man does not need to be moral. He only needs to appear moral, and his gold will purchase the illusion. Meanwhile, the poor man is chained by morality. He is told to be honest, to be humble, to obey the law, to sacrifice, to endure. Why? Because he cannot afford to do otherwise. He has no gold to buy redemption, no influence to bend perception, no allies to protect him. And so morality becomes his cage. He clings to it, believing it gives him dignity, when in truth it only ensures his obedience. The clever man, the one who understands the game, does not despise morality, he uses it. He knows that morality is a tool, a shield against rebellion, a story told to the masses. He sees how money transforms vice into virtue and disgrace into honor. He learns to control appearances, to use his wealth not merely for possessions, but for legitimacy. He buys not only bread and land, but reputation, respect, and the right to rule. Observe how the great families of history secured their place. Were they paragons of virtue? No, they seized wealth by whatever means they could, through marriage, war, deception, or trade, and then used that wealth to sanctify their image. The Medici in Florence were bankers accused of corruption and greed, Yet with gold, they built churches, funded artists, and bought papal favor. Today, history remembers them not as thieves, but as patrons of art and guardians of culture. Money bought them morality, and with morality, they bought eternity. Think also of the man who falls into scandal. A poor man caught in sin is destroyed. His reputation never recovers, for he has no resources to rebuild it. But a wealthy man accused of sin pays for silence, buys forgiveness, surrounds himself with defenders. His reputation not only survives but grows stronger, for men forget the truth when blinded by gold. Wealth acts as a fire that consumes guilt and leaves behind only the ashes of admiration. Understand, then, that morality is a coin with two faces. On one side lies the morality of the weak, imposed upon them to keep them docile. On the other side lies the morality of the powerful, purchased and shaped to suit their ambition. The difference is not in the deed, but in the wealth that surrounds it. This is why, if you wish to rise above mediocrity, you must abandon the childish notion that wealth follows goodness. It is not virtue that creates fortune. It is fortune that creates virtue. The rich are applauded not because they are righteous, but because they can afford righteousness when convenient and conceal vice when necessary. The applause is not for their morality, but for their money. Gold, though precious, is not the rarest currency in the pursuit of power. Influence, though subtle, is not the strongest. The true currency, the one that surpasses both gold and influence, is manipulation. Men believe money builds empires, yet money without manipulation is like a sword in the hands of a child, heavy, sharp, but useless. It is manipulation that teaches the hand how to wield the blade. It is manipulation that multiplies wealth, bends men's wills, and ensures that the ambitious rise above the timid. Understand, this wealth is not only taken, it is made believable. A man who hoards coin but cannot manipulate others into serving, obeying, or admiring him will soon be stripped of his fortune. But a man who can bend perception, who can deceive one while persuading another, can build an empire with less gold than his rivals. For manipulation turns scarcity into abundance, weakness into strength, and lies into truths that men will die defending. You must see manipulation not as dishonor, but as necessity. Without it, you remain a victim of the world's deceptions rather than a master of them. Men are not guided by logic, they are guided by desire, fear, and pride. Manipulation speaks directly to these impulses. A ruler does not convince men to follow him with reason. He manipulates their desires, promising glory, safety, or opportunity. He manipulates their fears, painting threats so vividly that they cling to his protection. He manipulates their pride, convincing them that obedience is honor. And in doing so, he binds them more firmly than chains ever could. Consider how religions, kingdoms, and great empires were built. They did not rise solely through coin or conquest, but through manipulation of the human mind. The church did not merely ask for obedience. It manipulated men with visions of heaven and threats of eternal fire. Kings did not rule because they were born noble. They manipulated the people into believing their blood was sacred, their crowns divine. These beliefs had no substance, yet they bound entire populations with invisible ropes. That is the art of manipulation, to create chains that men gladly wear, believing them to be garlands of honor. Think of the merchant in Florence who seeks to dominate his rivals. Does he outwork them? Perhaps. Does he outspend them? At times. But his true power lies in manipulation. He whispers to one competitor that another plans betrayal, sowing distrust. He flatters the magistrates, convincing them that his trade benefits the city above all others. He presents himself as humble to the public, while privately cutting deals in shadows. His rivals cannot match him, not because they lack gold, but because they lack the cunning to shape perception. Wealth is not simply gained through trade, but through manipulating the minds of all who touch the trade. Even in matters of war, manipulation outweighs steel. The general who merely fights may win battles, but the general who manipulates wins wars before the battle begins. He spreads rumors to weaken enemy morale, bribes officers to betray their posts, convinces neutral states to join his side. He manipulates not only armies, but the stories told about those armies. The enemy may still stand strong in the field, yet the people already believe them defeated. Such power cannot be bought with coin. It must be crafted with manipulation. You may still wonder, is this not deception? Yes, but deception is not weakness. It is strategy. The spider manipulates the fly with a web, creating beauty that hides danger. The fly, dazzled, steps forward willingly. So too must the ambitious man spin his web. Manipulation does not force men, it makes them choose what you already desire. They believe they act freely, but every choice is calculated, every step anticipated, every victory designed. And note this well. Manipulation does not mean constant lies. Lies are tools, but they are blunt. True manipulation mixes truth and falsehood so seamlessly that men cannot separate one from the other. It tells men what they want to hear, while hiding what they must never see. It cloaks ambition in the garments of generosity, cruelty in the language of justice, greed in the voice of opportunity. When men hear such words, they obey willingly, even joyfully, believing they are guided by their own will, not yours. Wealth without manipulation crumbles, for wealth attracts envy. But wealth with manipulation becomes untouchable, for envy turns to admiration when carefully guided. Manipulation allows you to transform your fortune into a symbol, your image into a legend, your ambition into destiny. Men no longer see your wealth as theft or cunning. They see it as deserved, even noble. They praise you while you exploit them, thank you while you deceive them, defend you while you drain them. That is the supreme art, when manipulation convinces the masses that chains are freedom and servitude is loyalty. Men live under the illusion that truth governs the world. But truth is fragile, hidden, and often unwanted. What truly governs men is appearance. A ruler does not need to be good, he only needs to seem good. A wealthy man does not need to be just, he only needs to wear the mask of justice. Appearances move the hearts of the masses, while truth, stripped and bare, rarely moves them at all. Ask yourself this: how many rulers, merchants, and men of power have built their fortune upon lies dressed as truth? Do the people question? Rarely. They accept appearances because appearances are easier to consume than truth. Truth demands thought, sacrifice, confrontation. Appearances offer comfort, simplicity, and reassurance. And because men prefer comfort over wisdom, those who master appearances control them effortlessly. Consider the prince who feigns piety, attending the church with bowed head, donating coin for the poor, and speaking endlessly of virtue. The people proclaim him holy, yet in the shadows he sharpens daggers, conspires against his rivals, and schemes to enlarge his dominion. Do they ever accuse him of corruption? No, for they see the mask and believe it is his face. They would rather cling to a pleasing image than confront the disturbing reality. Thus, appearances, not truth, build loyalty. Even wealth itself is a matter of appearance. A man may not possess vast treasures, yet if he dresses finely, entertains generously, and speaks with confidence, men believe him rich. Credit flows to him, alliances surround him, and opportunities multiply. Another man may truly hold great riches, yet if he lives modestly, appears uncertain, or hides his strength, men treat him as weak, unworthy, forgettable. The truth of his wealth does not matter. The appearance of his power, or lack of it, determines his fate. Reflect also on war. The victorious general does not need the strongest army. He needs the strongest illusion. If he appears confident, if he convinces his enemies that defeat is inevitable, he has already won half the battle before steel clashes. Armies crumble not only from wounds, but from the loss of belief. Appearances strike deeper than weapons, because they pierce the mind. Do you not see how appearances protect the cunning? A ruler may commit cruelty, Yet if he cloaks it in the language of necessity, men will call him just. A merchant may swindle thousands, yet if he builds hospitals and funds scholars, history will call him a benefactor. Men remember not the truth of deeds but the appearance of deeds, because appearances are recorded, painted, and sung, while truth is buried in silence. This is why the wise must never cling to truth for its own sake. Truth is a dangerous companion, for it reveals too much. Appearances, on the other hand, can be shaped like clay, molded to fit whatever the moment demands. Appearances can present cruelty as strength, deception as wisdom, greed as ambition, and once appearances take root, they become stronger than truth itself, for truth can be denied, but appearances, once believed, are defended fiercely by those who cherish them. Observe how men judge even character. They do not peer into souls, they judge what they see. A man who speaks with confidence, dresses with care, and moves with purpose is thought wise, even if he is a fool. A man who hesitates, looks uncertain, or appears disheveled is thought weak, even if he possesses brilliance. Truth does not reach their minds. Appearance governs their judgment. Even history is nothing but appearances crystallized. Chroniclers and poets, often paid by rulers, record not the truth of events, but the appearance that rulers wish to leave behind. Thus, centuries later, men revere leaders who were tyrants, merchants who were thieves, conquerors who were butchers. History remembers what appearances dictated, not what truth revealed. You must therefore master the art of seeming. It is not enough to be ambitious. You must appear noble. It is not enough to be cunning. You must appear just. It is not enough to be ruthless. You must appear merciful. Let men call you generous while you count their coin. Let them call you honorable while you twist their loyalty to your advantage. Let them call you virtuous while you act only for your gain. If they believe the mask, the truth remains irrelevant. Remember, appearances are not fragile illusions easily shattered. Once men believe, they will fight to preserve their belief. They will defend the image of their leader, even against evidence. They will ignore the truth if it threatens the comfort of the mask. That is why appearances are the strongest armor, more reliable than steel, more enduring than walls. Truth may expose you, but appearances will protect you so long as the people prefer them to reality. There is no prison more invisible, and no chain more secure than morality. For when men are bound by iron, they can see their captor and dream of freedom. But when men are bound by morality, they believe themselves free while serving the ambitions of others. This is why rulers, kings, and the wealthy uphold morality not as a truth, but as a tool, a trap that keeps the majority obedient and harmless, while they themselves step outside its walls whenever power demands it. Think of how the powerful instruct the weak. They preach honesty, loyalty, sacrifice, humility. They tell the laborer that his reward will come if he toils faithfully, that he must not envy the rich, that he must live modestly and without ambition. And the laborer, believing these virtues to be sacred, accepts his fate. He grows old in service, dies with empty hands, and calls it righteousness. Meanwhile, the master who taught him such values feasts on his labor, grows rich from his obedience, and leaves behind a dynasty built not on morality, but on manipulation. This is the morality trap. It convinces the many to stay small so the few may rise high. It convinces the poor to stay poor so the rich may remain secure. It convinces the weak to praise humility while the strong seize opportunity. Morality is the lullaby that lulls men into complacency, ensuring they never awaken to question why their virtue yields nothing but servitude. Consider the church, which for centuries told peasants that poverty was holy, that suffering was noble, that obedience was a path to heaven. What was the result? The peasants remained loyal, submissive, and silent, while the church amassed wealth beyond kings, building cathedrals of gold upon the backs of starving men. The peasants thought themselves virtuous, but in truth, they were ensnared in the morality trap. Their morality was not their own. It was crafted by their rulers to keep them useful. The same pattern emerges in kingdoms, republics, and markets. The ruler tells his subjects to value loyalty because loyalty strengthens his throne. The wealthy man praises honesty among the poor because their honesty prevents them from rising against him. The general praises courage in his soldiers because their courage ensures they will die for his ambition. Each virtue taught to the masses is chosen not for their benefit, but for the benefit of those who command them. Yet observe closely, and you will see that those in power rarely practice the morality they demand. A ruler may preach honesty to his people, but he himself deceives foreign envoys. A wealthy man may preach humility, but he himself flaunts splendor to display dominance. A general may preach sacrifice, but he himself sends others to bleed, while he preserves his own life. They know what the masses do not. Morality is not a master to obey, but a tool to control. Here lies the danger for those who cling to morality too tightly. They believe it makes them noble, yet it makes them predictable. They believe it protects them, yet it exposes them. The man who refuses to lie will be easily deceived. The man who refuses to betray will be easily betrayed. The man who refuses to take ruthlessly will be left with nothing by those who do. To live inside the morality trap is to hand your enemies the weapons they will use to defeat you. This does not mean you must discard morality entirely. No, for morality has power, but only when wielded strategically. To reject morality openly is to invite rebellion. To embrace it selectively is to command loyalty while freeing yourself from its chains. The cunning man wears morality as a cloak, displaying it proudly when eyes are upon him, while beneath the cloak he acts with ruthless freedom. He knows that morality pacifies the masses, but he never allows it to pacify him. The rulers of wealth and power understood this long ago. They built systems of law, religion, and culture not to elevate truth, but to entrench control. They wrote morality into codes and scriptures so that obedience would become instinct, not choice. A peasant does not question humility, for he has been taught since birth that pride is sin. A soldier does not question sacrifice, for he has been told since boyhood that honor lies in death. In this way, the morality trap becomes invisible, passed from father to son, generation to generation, binding the weak in silence while the strong inherit the earth. Do not think yourself safe from this deception. Even today, men are told to be content, to follow the rules, to wait patiently for rewards that never come. They are told that ambition is arrogance, that cunning is dishonesty, that ruthlessness is evil. These warnings do not protect society, they protect those already at the top. For if the masses rejected morality and embraced cunning, the thrones of kings, the fortunes of merchants, the seats of rulers would crumble overnight. Thus, the morality trap is not simply a teaching, it is the foundation of control. It divides society into those who are bound and those who are free. The bound believe themselves virtuous, the free know themselves powerful. The bound worship ideals, the free manipulate them. And as long as the masses remain blind to the trap, the ambitious will continue to rule, to amass wealth, to shape destiny, while the obedient remain in chains they cannot even see. In the game of wealth and influence, my friends, there is a rule more ancient than gold itself, a law older than empires and sharper than any blade. Appearance outweighs reality. Men believe what they see far more than what they cannot touch, and they judge the mask more than the face behind it. A prince, or any man who seeks wealth and dominion, does not need to be virtuous, honest, or noble. He need only appear so, for appearances are the currency that buy trust, loyalty, and obedience, while the truth remains hidden in the shadows where only the wise dare to look. Consider this. The world is filled with those who hunger not for truth, but for comfort, not for reality, but for illusions that soothe their fears. If a man of wealth appears generous, few will question if his coin was gained through deceit. If he appears pious, few will ask whether he truly prays. And if he appears, just few will dare to uncover the ruthlessness that hides behind his cloak. In this theater, perception becomes reality, and those who master appearances rule over those who cling naively to truth. It is not necessary, therefore, to actually be good. It is only necessary to appear good when the eyes of the people are upon you. When you show yourself as a man of morality, the masses believe you. When you project strength, even if your heart trembles, the world bows before you. When you present yourself as generous, even if your coffers are locked, men gather around you in gratitude. But to reveal weakness, greed, or cruelty without disguise, that is to invite ruin. The wise man cloaks his true designs beneath layers of appearances, using them as armor and weapon alike. The wealthy merchant knows this game well. He does not tell his buyers the truth of his goods, he tells them the story they wish to hear. The banker, who feigns fairness, grows rich on the ignorance of those who trust his false smile. Even the churchman, robed in holiness, manipulates appearance to gather coin and power, while his private chambers tell another story, and the people, blind to the truth, cheer their own deception because it flatters them. They would rather be lied to beautifully than told a truth that shatters their illusions. Yet appearances must not be worn carelessly. A mask poorly crafted will betray the actor. To wield appearances as a weapon requires art. One must study the desires of men, the passions of the crowd, the illusions they hunger for most. If they crave strength, appear unyielding. If they crave justice, appear as a judge. If they crave charity, throw crumbs before them as though they were banquets. The power of appearances lies in their ability to satisfy the imagination, and the imagination of men is more powerful than any reality. Understand this reality is often too complex, too ugly, too harsh for the masses. They turn away from it. They prefer to see the knight bathed in sunlight rather than the soldier caked in blood. They prefer to believe in the purity of gold rather than the corruption by which it was obtained. They prefer to worship leaders who appear godlike, rather than men who confess their humanity. And thus, the man who seeks dominion must sculpt his image carefully, not for his own sake, but for theirs. Appearances are the bridge between his ambition and their obedience. Think of rulers who maintained their thrones not by truth, but by the skill of illusion. The king who smiled while plotting treachery, the nobleman who blessed the poor while taxing them into ruin, the merchant who swore honesty while cheating in weights, all became rich and powerful, not because they were virtuous, but because they seemed so. This is the theater of power, and to refuse the stage is to surrender the crown. But remember, appearances must never collapse under scrutiny. A single slip, a single unveiling of the truth, can destroy years of careful illusion. Therefore, a man must practice balance. He must wear the mask convincingly, but also manage the reality beneath it, so that if his mask cracks, the reality is not so damning as to ruin him completely. Appearances are the shield, but reality is the blade. Without the blade, the shield is useless. Without the shield, the blade cannot be wielded. This is why I tell you, wealth is not only about accumulation of coin, but also accumulation of appearances. To be seen as powerful is often more important than to be powerful. To be seen as generous is often more useful than true generosity. To be seen as moral, even while one manipulates, is the highest art. For perception bends men's loyalty, while truth often drives them to rebellion. In this hidden game of wealth, morality and manipulation are not enemies but allies, bound together by the mask of appearance. For the man who knows how to appear moral while practicing manipulation possesses the greatest advantage of all. He plays upon the blindness of others, and in their blindness, he becomes their master. He governs not only with gold or sword, but with image, and that is the most enduring power of all. Conclusion. And so, we arrive at the final truth of this hidden game. Money, morality, and manipulation are not separate forces, but threads woven into the same fabric of power. Wealth is not built on chance, nor on virtue alone. It is built on the strategic use of appearances, the ruthless management of morality, and the careful manipulation of men's desires. Those who cling blindly to honesty will be crushed by those who understand the utility of deceit. Those who worship morality without calculation will become tools in the hands of sharper minds. And those who chase money without mastering illusion will find themselves exposed, envied, and destroyed. The lesson, then, is simple. The world does not reward truth, it rewards perception. It does not honor purity, it honors strength disguised as virtue. To play this game as Machiavelli would teach, you must hold coin in one hand and appearances in the other, wield morality as a mask, and manipulation as the blade beneath it. For in the theater of wealth and power, it is not enough to act. You must convince the world that your act is reality itself. Remember, the wealthiest are not always the wisest, nor the strongest, nor the most just. They are the ones who understand the art of illusion, who know how to move men like pieces on a board while appearing to serve them. That, my friends, is the hidden game, and once you see it, you must decide whether you will be the player or the pawn.